get to give some words of Torah.
Thank you so much, Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for having me. We are actually also part of a WhatsApp group called the Cape Town Beit Din, because there's three rabbis. You need 3 rabbis for a Beit Din. I guess that was an inside joke. So this Torah portion is very special to me, in part because it was my bat mitzvah portion, and I counted today. It was 29 years ago that I celebrated my bat mitzvah. And what I'm going to tell you about today is actually a part of the portion that I didn't even really know about when I became bat mitzvah. I learned it much later, so I wanted to share it with you. So in this Torah portion, we hear about all the people in Joseph's family coming to Egypt because they've discovered that Joseph is in Egypt and that there's food there, and he invites his whole family to come down and live in Egypt with him. And in the list of people that are going to Egypt is a woman named Serach bat Asher. And it's very significant that she's listed at all because a lot of times women aren't listed in these lists of generations in the genealogies. But it's also really significant because she also appears in the genealogy several centuries later of all the people who are leaving Egypt. So that would have meant that she lived around 400 years, which is a little bit surprising. So the rabbis decided that couldn't be a coincidence, and that she must have played a very special role in the Jewish story. So they went back and sort of imagined this whole story for her, and in order to do that, they made her immortal, which I think is pretty cool. So what they did, Serach's sort of first big moment, so Serach bat Asher means daughter of Asher. Asher is one of Joseph's brothers. When Joseph's brothers come back from Egypt and they've discovered that Joseph is still alive and that he is ruling over Egypt, they realize that their father, Jacob, thinks that Joseph has died and that this information might really shock him. So they are trying to think of the most gentle way to break this news to him. And so they bring out Serach, who is the daughter of one of the brothers, Joseph's niece and Jacob's granddaughter. And they have her come out with a harp. And she starts playing a song, and the music is very soothing, and it soothes her grandfather. And while she's singing, she sings, "My uncle Joseph is alive, and he is ruling over all of Egypt." And she just kept singing it, and for a moment, Jacob is a little bit shocked, but because the music is soothing, he's able to process the information. So that's the first time we see Serach. And then, theoretically, she goes down to Egypt with her family, and the next time the rabbis imagine her popping up is that when Moses comes along, several centuries later, and says, "I've come to," and the Israelites are enslaved, and Moses is coming to say, "I'm here, God wants us to take you out of Egypt." The people don't believe him. And so they have to go and make sure that he is for real. And so they go to Serach bat Asher, who at this point would be several hundred years old, and say, this person showed up claiming that he's going to take us out of Egypt. And she asks them a few questions about what he was like and what he said. And based on their answers, she said, "Yep, that's the guy. That's the right guy. We can go with him." And as they're leaving Egypt, they realize they can't leave without taking Joseph. Joseph has asked when they go up from Egypt, before he died, he asked, "Can you bring up my bones out of Egypt when you leave?" And so they can't leave until they do that, and they don't know where he is, where he has been buried. And Serach knows that also. So she helps him she helps them find Joseph so they can take him with them when they go out of Egypt. And then this is the last one, but this is my favorite. So another bunch of centuries later, so she's played this critical role in the Joseph story. She's played this important role in the Exodus story. And then years later, after everything in the Torah takes place, the rabbis are in their study hall, and they're arguing, as they tend to do. And they're arguing over what the experience of the Exodus was like, what it was like to walk through the Red Sea when it parted. And one rabbi is saying it was like walls of water, and one rabbi saying, oh, it might have looked like a net of water. So it would have had sort of holes in it. And Sarah magically appears and says, neither of you know what you're talking about. I was there, and it looked like lighted windows. So, and there's probably other legends about her, and you can also create legends about her. That's part of what I like to do, is create new stories about our old stories. So there are probably a lot of more stories about her, but basically she's always sort of there as this secret keeper, this storyteller. She's sort of this repository of wisdom that people wouldn't otherwise know. And she's sort of this continuous thread through the generations. And I don't know if she's still hanging out. I think it'd be really cool if she was still around today. But she teaches us a really important lesson about how important it is to carry certain things with us. To think about what it is. So she's had this secret wisdom all her life, sort of what had happened to Joseph, when the Redeemer of Israel would come, where Joseph's buried. She knows all of this stuff, and she's responsible for keeping it and carrying it on to the next generation. And we don't necessarily know whether she's still doing that, and so in some ways it's our responsibility. So I want everybody who's here tonight to be thinking about, what is some special piece of wisdom that you have received? Maybe something that only you know, a story that only you can tell. What is something that either has been passed down to you or that you have experienced that you think it might be important for whoever comes after you to know? What's something that you want to make sure that you remember throughout your life? What's something you want to make sure that somehow you pass on to the next generation? What are the things that matter to us the most? So then we can be helping Sarah in her work of keeping the secrets of our people, and also of passing on our stories to the next generation. Shabbat shalom.
Toda rabba, Rabbi Leah. Rabbi Leah mentioned that she likes to take old stories and make them